So many years after graduation, I never thought I'd reunite with John in this way. As I served the fruit platter, I kept my head down, afraid that he might see my face. Luna sat beside him. A fine match indeed. "Waiter," John called to me. "Cut up the oranges." I turned my back to him and sliced the orange into pieces. A long time ago, whenever I liked to eat oranges, John would always slice them up for me. He is skilled with a knife and can slice each piece evenly in size. Back then I thought he loved me. Later I realized that this was just his habit. When he cut oranges, he thought of everything else but never of me. For years apart, it felt like a lifetime. For some reason, the guests started talking about their schoolboy romances. Someone said, "I heard that Mr. John had a girlfriend for 4 years in college." My hand paused. Yang Jinghem. Great, for years, an entire college period. Yang Jingji didn't respond. The man felt a bit awkward and tried to fill the silence. 4 years of talk should have been unforgettable, right? The silence was like a tranquil river. It was a long time before John smiled gently. "It's not that bad. John just doesn't hate her," Luna explained casually. "I went to school with John back in the day. Oh well, I put him through a lot of trouble. If it weren't for my ex-girlfriend getting in the way, would John and I be together now? Yeah, Miss Sue is such a big star. How could anyone measure up to her?" The atmosphere became lively once again. I pushed my hat down and just wanted to get out of there quickly. The fruit knife sliced my hand, and I let out a hiss, attracting the guests' attention. "What's the matter? Can't even cut up some fruit?" Luna complained. "I'm sorry, I'll go get a clean plate." I was about to run off with the dish. "Wait a minute." John suddenly called out to me. Word by word. "Turn around." My body felt rooted to the spot. 1 second, 2 seconds. The supervisor arrived at the right moment. "Sorry, our new colleague here is still getting used to the work. Today we'll give you all the fruit platter for free." The manager winks at me. "Aren't you going to hurry up and get a fresh one?" I managed to escape. Then the head waitress sister told me, "Next time be a bit more on your toes. Everyone starts as a new person, and if you get complained about, you'll have wasted your evening." "Thank you." "No problem. That VIP room in particular requires extra care. The whole room is filled with important guests. Especially the youngest and most handsome one at the center's the boss of an innovative technology company, and we can't afford to offend him. Sis, I'm a bit scared. Could you help me deliver this orange?" "Sure." I breathed a sigh of relief. If there's anyone in this world who has already thoroughly offended John, it can only be me. I was the hated ex he mentioned. I still remember those days of my freshman year. John stood out among the freshmen, wearing old clothes that had been washed to a faded white. He was visibly poor, also clearly visible in its height. I like the cool tone of his voice when he speaks. I also like the thin eyelids that droop when he looks at me. John was desperately short of money, and his spot for a poverty allowance had been snatched away by the counselor's connections. So, after some evening class, I grabbed his small tender hand like a hungry wolf. "John, I like you. Stay with me. I'm pretty well off and we can share living expenses. If that doesn't work out, a kiss will cost you." Of course, he was rejected. But back then, my life was going smoothly. I didn't know what it meant to be defeated. The more he refused, the tighter I clung. Until his grandfather, who had raised him, was critically ill, I didn't blink, settling the medical bills for him. Yang Jing finally submitted to me. I foolishly thought that I had done a great favor. It was a long time before I realized I had him, but I also brought him down. After we got together, he still worked every day to earn a living. He didn't use my money much, but things got even worse. Gossip about Yang Jingji had spread throughout the school. He dedicated himself to money. His classmates looked at him differently, and some gave him unpleasant nicknames. At that time, I was still optimistic and innocent, holding his hand and saying, "Don't listen to them, they are just jealous." I lived in my own ivory tower, never realizing that John was fighting a lone battle. That year of my senior year in college, my family went bankrupt. I didn't tell John. I just called him out and said, "Let's break up." "Why?" "I'm over it." "Fine." That was it, we were done. I guess he was happy because he finally regained his freedom. On the day of our breakup, I threw away my SIM card, deactivated WeChat, and boarded a train to another city where I would work to pay off my debts. It was only 3 months ago that I returned here. John looks very good. He was always a top student, and in college he dominated his entire department as an exceptional genius. For years after graduation, he had already become a tech tycoon who could grace the pages of financial magazines. Luna used to be the class beauty. She made her debut in our junior year. I never expected them to be together. Pretty good, pretty good. I clutched my chest, suppressing the sting of bitterness. At 4 a.m, I finished my shift. I was the last one to leave. My colleagues thought no one was left and turned off the lights early, along with stopping the elevator. I impatiently pressed the elevator button, hoping to activate it. Let's make a phone call. John's voice suddenly sounded behind him. I stiffly called my colleague. The elevator restarted, and I stood with Yongjing in the cramped space. Are you guys this late off work? He asked without any warmth. We can't leave until the guests have gone. The pay is good here? It's all right. I kept my head down, the brim of my hat shielding my face. John seemed to fail to recognize me, and we exchanged a few casual remarks before he checked his watch. This elevator is so slow, my girlfriend must be getting anxious. She's quite clingy and loves to play the baby. I was taken aback, realizing that he had been referring to Luna. Where are you going? It's late. Isn't your boyfriend picking you up? I live nearby. The elevator arrived. The moment the door opened, I hurried out. John had been calm for several minutes but finally erupted with anger at this moment. Running where? Where do you think you can go, Chloe? Vanish into thin air and see how it feels. John closed in on her. He is still the young man I remember, only now his youthful awkwardness has faded, and he has become more mature and restrained. Uninstalled WeChat, turned off your phone number. Even the teacher can't find you, Chloe, you're really something. I slowly raised my head to meet his gaze. Shouldn't you have checked your connections? My family went bankrupt. My dad got involved in a financial dispute and still hasn't paid off his debts. Why didn't you tell me back then? I was speechless. Is it because you don't want to lose face, Miss Chloe? No, before she could finish her sentence, Luna walked over. Hey, Chloe. It really is you. She's even prettier than she was in college, down to the last strand of hair. Long time no see. Everyone in class has been looking for you. How come you haven't given us any news for 4 years? I went to the south. No wonder. Luna looked at the clothes I was wearing and was surprised. Chloe, isn't this the down jacket you bought during your junior year? It's already lost its fluff. Why are you still wearing it? I used to buy clothes and only wear them for a year before throwing them away. She asked me that to put me on the spot. But I was numb already. It's still wearable, Luna said knowingly. You must be going through tough times now? You should have told me sooner. Old classmates help each other. She fished out a card. Take it and use it. You don't have to return it. Thank you, but I won't need it. I looked at her, then at John, and smiled silently. I'm getting married soon, remember to come. The words had barely left his mouth when John was completely taken aback. KTV is just a part-time job for me. I still have to work during the day. On Monday, a client came to the company. Colleagues were gossiping. I heard this client is a genius. He initially created the system to find someone. Oh? Who? His ex-girlfriend, I suppose. My eyelids twitched, and I had an uneasy premonition. Did he find it? I don't know. The system is still under development, and the big shots have invested a lot of money with great expectations for its future prospects. That's why our boss also wants to collaborate. I organized my materials. At the entrance to the reception room, John's voice came through. Regarding the cooperation, I need to think it over. I pushed open the door and placed the documents on the table. John's eyes were blazing. What are you doing here? Working. This is my main job. Boss. Chloe, do you know Mr. John? I think for a moment and answer. I've met him. Just met him. John is getting angry again. I don't know what he's so upset about. That day when we broke up, he didn't even look back at me once. Could it have been anyone else? He pointed at me. Mr. Lee, I can sign the contract on one condition: Chloe comes to work as my assistant. The boss immediately agreed without even giving me a chance to protest. They talked all day long. In the evening, I picked up my bag and left work on time. John stopped me. Where are you going? I haven't let you leave yet. Mr. John, I can't work late today. I have something to do. What's that? I'm going to deliver food. John looked at me in disbelief. I used to be so pampered that I never even touched takeout food. For 4 years in college, John would go out to deliver food after classes. His dinner was often a boxed lunch delivered by an outside catering company. One time I went to find him. In the cramped room, he was crowded together with a group of writers, scraping rice out of a box. I said, John, how can you eat this? It's unclean. He looked very uncomfortable and asked me, does it matter if it's clean or not? Come with me to have a steak. I pulled him into a newly opened Western restaurant where the average cost per person was over $500. He stood for a moment at the entrance of the restaurant, silently taking off his delivery uniform. After our family's decline in fortune, I finally understood his mood that day. Just as today. It's snowing. The floor was slippery and I fell, spilling my food. When I called the customer to explain, they cursed me out. The client said, no excuses. If you're late, you're late. My scraped palms hurt like ice in the cold winter, but I didn't have time to care and kept saying sorry. Yangjing suddenly appeared and helped me with my car. He came at some unknown time and watched for an indeterminate period. I instinctively hid my hand behind my back. Don't hide it, he said hoarsely with red-rimmed eyes. Go wash right away. I need to deliver the food first, I replied. Get in the car, let me take you there, he insisted. The customer lived on the ground floor. When I arrived and handed over the food, he muttered, what the hell? Is this guy delivering food in a Porsche? I still had another order to fulfill. John said, no need to send it. No way, I didn't earn enough tonight. Then I'll buy it. What? Beep. The system automatically accepted the order he had assigned himself. I'm buying your time for tonight. Yangjing took me to his place. I stood at the entrance, unwilling to go in. Luna will be furious, John said. You have the time to care about others? Look at yourself. You're covered in snow and grime. Besides a few scrapes on my palms, I was drenched in dirty slush. Besides, Chloe, look at my room. Does it seem like a woman has been here? You didn't live together? I've never even been with her. John threw a contract down in front of me. Half a year ago, she found me and proposed to work together. She didn't want to be subject to the unwritten rules and asked me to pretend to be her boyfriend. At the same time, she would help me handle troublesome customers. He paused, as if afraid I wouldn't understand, then further explained. Some clients like to put women in people's beds, thinking that everyone falls for it, and I'm annoyed by this. Luna helps me block those ones out. This contract is written clearly. No interference with each other's private lives. Yangjing tugged at my hand and tended to my wound for me. I saw a row of unopened hand cream boxes on the shelf. That was my favorite brand before, and John bought the whole set to keep at home. Today, I asked a few of your colleagues about you, he said in a low voice. You don't have a boyfriend, and you said you were single at last week's reunion. Chloe, you're lying to me on purpose, aren't you? I didn't lie to you. Then show me the group photo, you and the man. There were no pictures taken together. You're such a picture taker that you don't take a picture with your new love? You reminded me. I'll show you next time I take one. John laughed in exasperation at my comment. He suddenly leaned on the sofa, completely enveloping me with a sense of pressure. I was unable to move. Even through the sweater, I could still feel his warm body temperature. I bought your time, so you know what to do. I'll refund you, John. I really am getting married. He trailed his fingers down my shoulder but stopped at my wrist. Getting married but still wearing the bracelet from your ex-boyfriend? That doesn't seem right. I have a chain on my wrist that has faded with time. This was the first gift John gave me. When I was 19 years old, there was a week when I hardly saw anyone except during class. He was hustling through various part-time jobs, working harder than ever before. On my birthday, my parents threw a fancy dinner party for me, and I told John about it, but he didn't come. I waited and waited all day until the evening when finally his call came through. He said he would wait for me at the restaurant door. Amid the heavy snowfall, my youthful form stood tall and straight as a pine tree. He was dusty and dirty like I am today, with his yellow delivery uniform smeared with mud. Back then, I knew nothing and only complained that he had come too late. John rubbed my head and said he had brought me a birthday present. The bracelet was a basic model, not expensive but still far beyond his means. I really liked it and put it on my wrist right then and there. I haven't taken it off since. Later, my parents called me and asked who I was talking to. They don't like John and think he isn't good enough for me. When I turned around again, Yongjing had already disappeared into the wind and snow. To this day, when I think of it by chance, at least when he was 19, didn't John like me? That bracelet was the result of his relentless toil day and night. Is he, like me tonight, also running and falling in the snow for this bracelet, yet still fearlessly moving forward? And what about now? He pinned me down and forced me. His home is filled with the luxury items I used to love. Is it because they still have feelings for me? Or are they humiliating me? I couldn't fathom it, and my eyes welled up involuntarily. Yongjing was stunned and immediately began to panic. He's always been at a loss when I cry. This is exactly the same as it used to be. He fumbled with the tissue against my eyes. Don't cry, it's my fault, I was only teasing you. Today is your 26th birthday, and I bought you a new bracelet. What? I had forgotten all about today being my birthday. John took out a new gift box. Take a look, do you like it? He was going to help me change my bracelet. Chloe, can we? The doorbell rang before she could finish her sentence. Henry stood at the door, smoking. Where's Chloe? I'm here to pick her up. Who are you? I'm her fiancé, didn't she tell you? John was taken aback and dropped his bracelet on the carpet. I went with Henry. He didn't roll down the window but lit cigarette after cigarette. Choked me into coughing. Henry and I used to know each other. Before my family went bankrupt, he had confessed his feelings to me. But I was so focused on Yongjing that I rejected him several times. Until last week, he suddenly came to see me. Henry said that if I married him, he would help me pay off my debts. I asked why. He said smugly, I'm going to prove that you made the wrong choice back then. Only I can save you now, and that poor little boy will just drag you down. Oh, he wants to marry me simply for his own sense of heroism. Just to take me on. How ridiculous. Today I had no choice but to ask him for a little help. Just make a phone call and find an excuse to slip away. I have no idea how he managed to find me. I said coldly, why pretend to be my fiancé? What difference does it make? You're getting married either way. I haven't agreed yet. Do you have any other choice? Miss Chloe, wake up. You're in debt and whoever marries you will get the raw end of the deal. Who else would want you besides me? That guy over there. Henry said with disdain. He was the poor college boyfriend you had back then? Let me tell you, he came back to humiliate you. Before, he couldn't resist being under your thumb. But now that you've fallen on hard times, who knows what kind of jokes he's making about you? That doesn't concern you at all. How can it not? After being stolen away by another woman before, he needs a good rub of his ego. Henry, I'm not an object. I refused you then and I'll refuse again. I got out of the car and Henry didn't stop me. Are you the one who decides whether to agree or not? Chloe, think about your family. His frivolous expression somehow made me think of the past again. Those who spread rumors and mock John are like this. Is it not the same in Yongjing's heart as well? The news of my return spread among my classmates. Along with that goes my family's experience. My roommate Nova got back in touch with me. She's getting married and asked me if I still want to be her bridesmaid. This was our agreement. The one who gets married first will be the other's bridesmaid. On the wedding day, many old classmates came, and I added everyone back on WeChat one by one. Nova was wearing a wedding dress, tears in her eyes. Chloe, I always thought you would be the first of us four to get married. If I got married, who would be your bridesmaid? You dare to say that? 4 years without a word. I could die from anger. I was wrong. From now on, I won't leave and will stay here to make amends. Nova wiped her tears and laughed. Why did you disappear then? If there's any difficulty, we can all help you. I looked down at my feet, thought about it, and poured out the words that had been in his heart for these years. I haven't faced such a huge setback in my life, Nova. You know what? My whole world has collapsed, and I don't know how to handle it. I can't even face everyone's eyes. Not even if they feel pity for me do I find it painful. It was just an impulse, so I erased all my contact information. Nova sighed. John is looking for you like he's about to go mad. What? I was stunned. Didn't you know? He used every method possible to find the teacher and the school. He was even about to call the police. As a poor student back then with no connections, when he couldn't find you, he went straight to your house. Nova watched my face before continuing. You know how he was scared of your parents, but he still went there with his courage. Who would have thought that the whole family had gone, and even your parents were nowhere to be found? That was the first time I saw John break down. He sat outside your house crying like a dog. Later on, when he heard you might be in the South, he came looking for you but couldn't find you. Where are you now? I said hesitantly. Guangzhou Giang Kunming. So many places that I can't even count. Because we were always being chased by debts, our family changed names and had to move every half month. Novit scared. No wonder he couldn't find you. Anyway, he finally returned to Beijing dejectedly and started working on his missing persons database. I didn't understand. I thought Yangjing could care less whether I stayed or left. Before my senior year graduation, I had overheard him talking to his male dormitory mates. A male classmate asked him, "What are your plans after graduation? Are you going to marry Chloe?" Yangjing coldly replied, "No." That day I was greatly disappointed. Not long after, the family fell on hard times. I broke up with him directly, and he didn't try to stop me either. What does look for me everywhere mean? Regret only when you have lost it? I feel a bit lost. When Nova threw the bouquet, I was distracted and missed it. The bouquet fell into Yangjing's hand. The MC said, "This gentleman has received the bouquet. Congratulations. Good luck with your relationship. Will you be giving it to your girlfriend?" "No need for that." John came towards me. "Hand over the bouquet." The entire crowd was roaring with laughter, the sound waves nearly lifting the roof off its hinges. Even Nova is screaming. To accept is not right, to reject is also not right. "John, you've already met my fiancé." It was a lie. "I don't believe your eyes could be that bad." "You can think my eyes are bad." "Okay, even if he is real." Yangjing leaned forward slightly and leaned against my ear. "Then you abandon him and come back to me." The deep voice sounded like a spell, full of enticing meaning. I almost gave in. It was just a matter of inches. Even after all these years, John can still make me dance like crazy in my aesthetic zone. After the ceremony was completed, all my old classmates came to find me for a drink. I drank too much by accident. Then I remembered going to sit in the stairwell. No matter how noisy it is outside, the stairwell is always the quietest place. John spotted me. "What are you doing here?" I turned around and gave him a sly smile. I just burst into tears. "Yang Jingji, I'm tired." Yang Jingji was responsible for sending me back. I was crying so hard that I couldn't walk. As soon as he got off the car, he scooped me up in his arms. "I'm so tired, I have to work every day, when will this end?" Yesterday a customer threw a drink on me. It was so unfair. It wasn't my fault at all. "John, I want to eat salmon and sweet shrimp. I've almost forgotten what they taste like." The alcohol took effect, and I spoke incoherently. John patiently tried to coax me, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. In the end, he put me on his sofa at home. He asked me, "What is it about that guy anyway?" I mumbled back, "He helps me pay off my debt." "I can do the same for you, Chloe," he said earnestly. "I know what makes you happy, how to make you smile again. Chloe, please don't disappear on me anymore." After that, I can't remember anything else. The next day, I woke up in John's bed. Naked. The table was laid out with sashimi of various kinds. There was also a plate of oranges sliced into uniform pieces. John said, "I've called in sick for you. You don't have to go to work today. Oh. When I sat down, I suddenly sprang up again. Did you ask for me? Yes. You told my boss? What's the problem? He'll misunderstand. Between us, everything is real. What could there be to misunderstand? Speechless. I asked your boss about it. You didn't take the programming position so that you could have time for part-time jobs? Yes, although a programmer earns more, they always have to work overtime. By taking on several roles, I earn more each month than I would as a full-time programmer. Starting next month, go back to the programming job. You can quit all your other jobs. No, I politely declined. I haven't written code in a while and I'm already out of practice. It's no problem, I'll teach you again. He focused on peeling the shrimp shells, dipped them in seasoning and placed one in my bowl. Just like before. He always peeled each shrimp for me with meticulous care. Actually, I didn't do very well in programming class when I was in college. But with a genius boyfriend tutoring for free, she couldn't be too far off. I whispered, Really, I've forgotten. Yang Jingji wrote a few lines on the paper and sat down beside me. Here are some basics to help jog your memory. For a moment, it felt like we had stepped back in time. My young companion sat beside me, gently explaining the problems to me. After eating, I'm going back to my own home. I didn't let John take me. I was daydreaming on the subway when I suddenly received a WeChat from Luna. Chloe, don't hurt John anymore, okay? What do you mean? These years, he has actually always wanted to pay you back. Pay me back for what? The money, Luna sent a screenshot. John said in the college dormitory group. It's paid off, I feel relieved. Others replied, Congratulations. Finally, a huge burden has been lifted. Your mind will be free from now on, ha ha ha. I was still confused. A debt text message came in. Outstanding debts have been fully settled by proxy, John. All the blood in his body seemed to freeze solid. My hand holding the phone was shaking all the time. Reflecting on all that had happened, John had gone mad searching for me. After our reunion, promote me and give me a raise. Words spoken and actions taken. Including last night. So it was all about paying back debts. That's it. Yeah, when we were at the KTV, Luna said she hated me. Perhaps that is the truth. Yang Jing does not like being in debt to others. From start to finish, I was nothing more than a big burden in his heart, and creditor. At this moment, an endless sorrow overwhelmed me. I didn't even know how to blame him. 8 years ago, it was I who personally placed him in a position unequal to mine. From then on, it was difficult to correct. He is honest and does not take my efforts for granted. He had been polite up until now. It would be better to forget. I had a burning rage in my heart and trembling fingers as I messaged John. Who gave you permission to pay my debts on your own? Isn't it a good thing? You won't have to work multiple jobs anymore. I don't need that. Chloe, stop being stubborn. Actually, I should have done this long ago. I've always wanted to repay you for Grandpa's medical bills. His words hurt me again. I'll save this money to pay you back. Besides official business, we shouldn't be in touch anymore. After that, John called me a lot of times and I didn't want to answer any of them. I took an extra day off and locked myself in my room, sleeping like a log, as if I were trying to make up for all the sleep I missed over the years. It wasn't until the next morning that my mom told me. John stood downstairs all night. I take the subway to work. John gave up his Porsche to ride the subway with me. As usual, I went to a KTV for part-time work at night. He reserved a small booth and sat by the entrance, watching me come and go. He was like a living statue, following me wherever I went. This went on for several days. I finally couldn't take it anymore and said, Stop following me. Don't follow and you'll disappear. He counted on his fingers. Vanish to other cities, vanish down stairwells, vanish by ignoring calls. Your actions have left me with a heavy heart. I choked on my words and said, I promise to repay the debt. Then I won't disappear anymore, right? People do trust each other sometimes. John frowned. What are you talking about? I don't owe any money. He still saw me as a ghost following him around. He didn't show up until Friday. Suwon called furiously. John hit someone. John punched Henry. The reason was that they had attended an industry gathering together today. Not at a table. Henry figured he hadn't seen him. Suddenly, someone mentioned the reclusive Yu family. Henry spoke confidently. General Yu has a daughter named Chloe who is absolutely beautiful. The harder she was to get back in the day, the easier it is now. His family still hasn't paid off their debts, so I offered to help Chloe pay them off, and she readily agreed to go with me. Even spending this much money on her, it's not a bad deal. Before he could finish his sentence, John's fist landed on him. With so many industry insiders around, he beat up Xiaojia's rich second-generation son right there. Outside the examination room, Luna blamed me. John has no background and has made it on his own up to this point. He's had a harder time than anyone else could imagine. But now, because of you, he's bound to offend some people. Luna is furious. Chloe, if you're not going to help him, at least don't harm him. Harm? Luna, on what grounds do you question me? Luna was taken aback. Me? You guys were supposed to be partners and agreed not to interfere with each other's personal lives, right? He actually told you about this. Luna was devastated. It wasn't long before her eyes welled up with tears and she looked extremely aggrieved. Chloe, even though John and I are just business partners, I genuinely like him. You've been gone for so long. Why don't you stay that way and leave him to me? You like him? Yes. That was the last thing I expected. Didn't you start it all by spreading rumors about John at school? Luna's face instantly paled. I just disappeared, but I didn't lose my memory. I stared at her coldly. Since John and I got together, you once cornered me in the ladies' room. Do you remember what you said? You told me to spend more money on John. Luna was panicked. I don't remember. Later, when someone called John a duck to his face, did you forget about it too? This ugly nickname spread from your mouth, didn't it? No, that's not true. You're just spouting nonsense. I'm clueless about the rules in your circle. If word gets out that a big star once bullied their classmate verbally, how would his fans react? Chloe. Luna raised her voice. You're the one spreading rumors now. Oh? Do I need to find some classmates to testify? She deflated instantly. Chloe, please, I'll give you whatever money you want. Just don't bring this up again, okay? And don't tell John either. I was young and foolish back then, but I'm really in love with him now, and I can make it up to him. Even now, you still think that you only hurt him? I shook my head helplessly. Luna, you've hurt me too. Then I'll apologize to you. She was in a panic. Please, Chloe, don't tell John. Don't ruin my image in his eyes. As she spoke, the curtains of the consultation room suddenly opened. Yang Jing stood at the window. Seems he has been there for a long time. Luna was disconsolate when she was driven out. Yang Jing's talent is not that of a broad-minded person. He hated those rumors from the past and naturally didn't have a good face for Luna. John doesn't usually swear much, but he was a genius who could leave his opponent with a lifelong shadow without uttering a single dirty word. Luna figures she won't see him again after this. Are you okay? I looked at John. His wounds were shallow and had already been treated. Will this affect your company? Don't worry, it's nothing serious. But Henry needs stitches. Stitches are cheap for him. I wish he'd get disfigured. John suddenly laughed. That's the way to go. What? This is who you really are. How long has it been since you spoke like this? Say more, let me hear it. To hell with business. They're all a bunch of scammers. Anything else? Pork prices have gone up again. What kind of life is this? Great, keep going. I'd rather take off work and stay home to watch TV and sleep. Are you complaining about me? No, sir, I wouldn't dare. Only you would. Sunlight shone on the snow. We argued all the way. Suddenly it felt like going back to school days. I let out all the pent-up emotions of these past few years, and before I knew it, I was crying. Wait for me, okay? I'll pay you back every cent. John started to fumble around again. What are you talking about? And why did you suddenly get angry before? It wasn't right for me to pay back your debt without asking. But I can't just ignore you either. You treated me like a burden. How could I have ignored you? A burden? John frowned. Who said that? Luna, wait a minute. She couldn't be the one who stirred up trouble, right? But the screenshots are definitely real. I pulled up the chat records. John looked very angry. I'm talking about someone else. John pulled out the chat records from his phone. He told his roommate that he had settled the overdue payment for a batch of projects from the company. Then those conversations took place. The chat record somehow ended up in Luna's hands, and she misunderstood the meaning after reading just a snippet of it. But how did she know that you were going to help me pay it back? She has experience with repaying debts for people. I just asked her. Yang Jingji drove the car to his house. The third time here, but with an entirely different mood than before. Let's get things out in the open today. John poured me a cup of coffee. Chloe, I have a lot of questions for you. Ask away, I said. Why did we break up? I became a burden. After much thought, it seemed better to part ways. Wasn't it because you were tired of me? For a moment, I was at a loss until I remembered that being tired was the reason I gave for our breakup. After the two words were said, John walked away without looking back. He said heavily, I thought you considered me a toy. After 4 years, you grew tired of me. With the upheaval at home, I couldn't help either, so you simply discarded me. How could he have thought that? I opened my mouth but didn't answer. John jumped in first and said, Even so, it doesn't matter. He seemed afraid of hearing the answer and revealed his hand first. Chloe, I've thought it through. Even as a plaything, I want to stay by your side forever. John's eyes were dark and deep, just like back then. I mulled over his words for a while before I spoke up. You've misunderstood. Those were words spoken in anger, John. I never thought of you as a toy. I was truly falling in love with you. Why would they be said in anger? Before the graduation ceremony, you told your roommates that you wouldn't marry me. This time it was John's turn to be stunned. He pondered for a while at a loss whether to laugh or cry. At the time, what I meant was that right after graduation, I didn't have the ability to get married. Julie, I started looking at engagement rings very early on, but I truly couldn't afford them. We went over every single thing. Found that they had misunderstood each other. Why is this so? The fundamental reason is still that the actual conditions are too far apart. Yang Jing thought that he was helping him for his own amusement. And I thought that John felt guilty and had to be with me. I don't even believe that they love me. Return to the present. John asked. Chloe, why would you rather accept Henry's help than mine? Because I like you and don't want to develop a relationship like this. I suddenly understood. John nodded. You got it, I felt the same way back then. Wait, did you like me when I confessed to you? Yes, Chloe, I liked you even before that. When we first met on orientation day and you said your name was Chloe, I wrote it down. John's recollection made me rediscover my silly self from those days. He fell for me before I did. It was just a moment too late to confess. And my way of showing goodwill was wrong from the start. I used what he was most lacking to tempt him. It would be hard for him to speak up. He has actually said many times that he likes me. No one believes it. Everyone thought he was lying to butter me up. Over time I began to believe it, and even he himself was starting to believe it. Is it Chloe that you like? Or is it Grandpa's medical bills? After being ridiculed countless times and becoming acutely aware of the gap between us, John himself was no longer sure anymore. He was conflicted and twisted, torturing himself day after day. Anyone can help him. I'm the only one who can't. Money can spoil affection. If Yang Jing wasn't so strong-willed, she could just lie peacefully by my side. But he didn't. That's why he is the boy I like. Yang Jing picked up an orange and began to slice it slowly. I suddenly remembered the day we met again. What did you mean by what you said? You can talk to me in anger, why can't I? I thought you had tired of me and left me for 4 years without a word, as if you were intentionally avoiding me. Can't I get angry too? Seems reasonable. But Luna said that you hate me. I'm sorry, it's my fault for not arguing with her in time. John slowly peeled the last orange slice. She let out a soft sigh. After all, I thought you were really tired of me. Snow was falling outside the window. Make the interior dry and warm. At this moment, I finally realized that in the river of time, the boy was trudging towards me. When our alma mater celebrated its anniversary, Jing Ziyang and I went back for a visit. He was about to deliver a speech as the outstanding graduate representative. The school remains the same, but one batch of innocent faces is replaced by another. Forever there is someone young. Forever there are those who strive for their ideals, in the prime of life. The graduate's diploma fell out of his pocket. A senior helped me up and said in surprise, "Sis, you're Chloe? Have you met me before? I'm interning at Mr. Yang's company. You're a celebrity there." Really? I only went to John's office once and waited for him at the front desk. When the front desk clerk registered my name, they had the same reaction. "Are you Chloe?" I still don't know to this day why he asked that. My junior said. The company had a core algorithm for that project. It was said to be written by Brother Yang when he first started the system. He left a note. "If you meet Chloe, please tell her I love her." Anyone who has worked with this algorithm can see this message. I stood there in shock for a long time and heard my junior say happily, "How wonderful! Brother Yang finally found the person he was looking for." After the speech ended, John and I walked slowly along our former path. We walked to the library door. John looked at the big tree to his left. "This is where you confessed your feelings to me." "Yeah, I remember. I was really brave back then." He gazed blankly, as if lost in a distant memory. "Young Jing, did you enjoy your college years?" He had hustled, been slandered, and felt lonely. "I guess I'm not happy, huh?" Yang Jing said. "I'm very happy. Because you're here. All the pain has turned into happiness." He turned around just as he had back then, looking down at me with lowered eyes. "Chloe, it's my turn to talk now. I like you more than I ever have before. And the 9th year of loving you is coming up soon. Will you give me a chance?" It started snowing again. Snowflakes fell on his head. I smiled slightly. "Happy New Year. Let's work together." "Happy New Year, my boy. Happy New Year, my youth. Even if there are regrets, we will always be the best version of ourselves." Epilogue. From the male protagonist's perspective, the first time I met Chloe was at the freshman orientation. She wore a white dress as she walked through the corridor bathed in sunlight. From now on, all my beautiful thoughts and fantasies have a concrete shape. I like her, but I know that she's different from me. We come from two different worlds. She is a princess at the pinnacle of the ivory tower, sincere and pure. Her feet had never touched the earth. They were spotless. She is moonlight, the one who's out of reach but within my sight. That is the source of all my inferiority complexes. How dare I hope for her? To indulge in any of these would be considered a capital offense. My parents died when I was very young, and my grandfather raised me. Last winter, Grandpa's leg was frostbitten and disabled, unable to work and support the family anymore. All the burdens fall on me. I need tuition fees as well as his medical expenses. After losing my welfare benefits, I felt as though I had been pushed into an abyss and began to question the concept of fairness. To my utter surprise, the moonlight streamed in at that moment. The moment she said she liked me, my blood felt like it was boiling through my veins. But when she said a kiss could be bought for money, I froze again and plunged completely into the ice cellar. What does she think I am? Can we be together if it's all about money? But Chloe's eyes were too innocent to suggest any hint of manipulation. I did not promise her. Until my grandfather was critically ill and had to be admitted to the ICU, the exorbitant medical bills completely broke me down. Chloe appeared and handed over the money without even blinking. She then laughed and asked me, "Is it good to be with me?" This time I agreed. Not because of the medical expenses, but because she pouted at me. I simply couldn't resist her. Later, I realized that Chloe's life had been too smooth for her to even consider wealth an advantage. She helps me, and it's not to show off her own virtues. Even to her, money was not an asset, it was just money. That is why she remains purer than anyone else. Chloe really likes me and always wants to hold my hand wherever we go. Her hands were small and soft, without a single callus in sight. I was afraid that the calluses on my hands would rub against her, but Chloe liked it, rubbing up and down against my hand. Sometimes I feel like a knight. The princess has to call me before I'll do anything. The princess didn't speak, and I didn't dare to approach her recklessly. Chloe is also very proactive, and her proactiveness never feels frivolous. Instead, it conveys sincerity and genuineness. And gradually there were rumors at school. Even my teacher, who has always held me in high regard, has subtly hinted that I should pay attention to issues of morality and conduct. I like Chloe, but I also don't want to be that kind of person they talk about. I had once thought about breaking up, but I couldn't bear to. Who could possibly let Chloe go? No one can. She's the best, a gift from God. The rumors became increasingly outrageous, and I immersed myself in books and worked to avoid listening to them. But one day, Chloe's father found me. He carried Chloe and let me leave her. He said I wasn't good enough for them. I certainly didn't agree, even though her father threatened me many times afterward. As long as Chloe wouldn't give up, I would never let go of her hand. I have to prove with all my might that I can love Chloe and provide her with a good future. If others have girlfriends, she wants one too. Roommate bought his girlfriend a bracelet, so Chloe needs one too. I worked my hardest at delivering takeout and tutoring to finally save up some money to buy Chloe a necklace. But I'm sorry, dear, I can't come to your birthday party. If my presence would put you in the spotlight of ridicule and criticism, then I'd rather not show up. Stumbled into senior year. I somehow found myself staring at the diamond ring. It's too expensive. I can't even afford the scraps. Chloe would just have to wait. Many companies have offered me high salaries, and if someone invests, I also want to start my own business. In time, I'll be able to afford a diamond ring. She would buy a house, a wedding dress, everything she liked. My ideas have been recognized by the company's senior management, and I might get a raise ahead, early. When I was about to share this good news with Chloe, she broke up with me instead. She said she was sick of it. In that moment, I felt like a fool. What am I expecting? Can I expect the moonlight to pity this humble creature? No, I'm just a plaything after all. I stormed off and shut myself away for 2 days in a fit of anger. Then I realized that I couldn't be without Chloe. Just because everyone else is playing with toys doesn't mean I can't do it better than them. I went to find Chloe and then I found out. She disappeared. Vanished completely. I quit my job and, relying on hearsay alone, plunged into an unfamiliar city to track down her whereabouts. Running in circles, she always moves so fast that not even a strand of hair is left for me. But I heard that her family went bankrupt. I have no money and can't help her pay off the debts, so she left me? I hated myself for the first time. With my savings depleted, I could only return to Beijing first and stay at a friend's place to begin developing the system. As my network expanded, all sorts of matters concerning the Yu family were laid bare before me. I gradually came to my senses and realized something. Bankruptcy is no joke. Chloe's ivory tower came crashing down. She has fallen into an unfamiliar world. Now, is she all right? You see, I am so divided. Angry yet worried about her at the same time. Still couldn't find Chloe. To avoid debt, they seem to have taken on new names and started a new life. I bought a lot of things that Chloe used to like. She uses perfumed hand cream. I bought the whole set. There are still bags and skincare products. She can continue using them as long as she comes back. In the 4th year of Chloe's disappearance, I finally saw her. That evening, I deliberately stayed behind to be the last one out, waiting for her to finish work before following after her. The elevator went down from the 20th floor to the 1st floor. In just a few minutes. It felt longer than the past 20 years combined. Why is she pretending not to know me? Why does she always want to run away? You don't want to see me at all? Taking the risk of being despised, I called out to her. The brim lifted, and I finally saw her face clearly. She had become so thin, and there was no longer the sparkle in her eyes that she once had. As she spoke to Luna, I was so engrossed in looking at her face that I almost forgot to breathe. The thing that surprised me the most was that she actually had multiple jobs. Just like it was back in my day. Calluses had formed on her hands. I almost cried. God knows, I never cried before, even though life was hard. But seeing the calluses on Chloe's hands made me want to cry so much. Chloe said she had a boyfriend. I didn't believe it until that Asoso man appeared before my eyes. Want to punch him. I've always been a fairly honest person. For the first time, I wanted to do something a little immoral for myself. I'm going to take Chloe back. I'm not poor anymore. I can give her a better life. Those debts are no concern either. I am now certain of my feelings. I like Chloe, both her past innocence and her present resolve. In some ways we are very alike. A new year has arrived. Chloe asked me, "What do you think is the toughest thing in this world?" I said, "Moonlight." She was puzzled and looked out the window, but didn't know that I was looking at her. I used to believe that moonlight had fallen, but I saw her fall and get back up. Life doesn't break her. Why is it moonlight? She still looked outside dumbfounded. Because even in the darkest hour, the moonlight never falls. I kissed her forehead. I will always love moonlight.